Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Inside LSU Baseball. I am your host, Jason Armstrong, and this is the greatest time of the year. If you're a college baseball fan, we've been waiting for this for months now. Cannot even believe it. Tomorrow morning, we kick off postseason play. It seems like we just started this whole deal. And I cannot believe that we're playing postseason baseball starting tomorrow. But super excited about it, and I'm gonna dive right into it. I don't know if I'm gonna call this a preview because I think I'm gonna do this a little bit different. But I think it's gonna be worth your while. So let's just jump right into what we're gonna see this weekend. Kind of some things that I'm looking for, and yeah, let's just get this thing cranked up. So when we saw the bracket announced on live TV on Monday, the entire country, I think, had the same thought. LSU has been gifted with an incredibly favorable group of teams. Now, sure, DBU is they're a tough mid-major team, one that was on the bubble to host even. But this is not, for example, the 2024 DBU team with Ryan Johnson and Jaron DeBerry. Both of those guys got drafted, like one in the second round, one in the third round. Just very good pitchers. They combined to go 18-4. This isn't the 47-win 2023 Dallas Baptist team who had 9 guys that had double-digit home runs, and they lost in the regional finals to an eventual CWS team and Oral Roberts. This is a good team, all right? But it's one you already beat, and you also faced probably their best starting pitcher as of late. That's who they threw back then in that game that LSU played against them. And Ryan, I believe it's Ryan Borber, he's now become like one of their hottest pitchers. So he's kind of stepped into one of those starting roles since Micah Bucknam has missed some time. But anyway, so there's some familiarity with this team. But the main thing, it's not an SEC team, for goodness sake. Well, finally, LSU gets a break from playing, these killers that they've been seeing week in and week out. But that's your 2 seed, Dallas Baptist, solid team. All right, the 3 seed, Rhode Island. This is a team that's had a good year. I mean, they're a pretty offensive team. They have a tremendous player and infielder, Anthony DePino, but this could have been a 3 seed like Oklahoma State or USC or even like a Kansas State. I mean, Rhode Island is the lowest ranked 3 seed in the entire tournament. When I say like lowest seed, like we're talking about by RPI, they're number 68. Okay, so that's your 3 seed. And then as far as the 4 seed goes, looking through the 16 regionals, the highest ranked 4 seed is Columbia, who's in the Hattiesburg Regional at 61 RPI. Murray State, Wright State, Miami of Ohio, St. Mary's, Fairfield, USC Upstate, and Houston Christian all have sub 100 RPIs. And then Fresno State is right there at 102. Now, there are a handful of some of these teams that are like automatic qualifiers who won their conference tournament who have RPIs over 100, but it's not many. Little Rock, LSU's first opponent in the 4 seed, is the only team in the 200s for RPI. And I'm not talking about like 212. It's 243, making the Trojans the lowest ranked team in the entire 64-team postseason. All right. Now, all of these teams have some good players and have some arms they can throw at you that are capable. But like to summarize, LSU is the only host team that doesn't have a Power 4 team in their regional bracket. The only one. It's LSU, and then 3 mid-majors. You have a 2 seed that you've already beat this year. You have the lowest rated 3 seed and a 4 seed who is the worst team in the tournament based on metrics. Sign me up for this. Now, you might find my tone overconfident. You may think I'm overlooking the competition, but I think in order to beat LSU in a regional type of format or a typical series, I'm not talking about like one game, midweek, something like that. You need elite pitching. All right. LSU has faced teams with potent offenses and then like decent pitching, and then teams with, high level pitching and just decent offenses. And the latter gives LSU more trouble. Think of a team like Tennessee, Mississippi State, Arkansas, all great offenses. We do well, against those type of teams because our pitching is elite. And good pitching hits good hitting. Good pitching beats good hitting. And our best of Cade Anderson, Anthony Einson, Kason Evans, Chase Shores, and company is just better than the other team's best hitters. You aren't going to score many on LSU. That's just a fact, okay? And LSU's offense is good enough to score just enough, not much, but just enough against decent pitching to where there's going to be more runs on, our column of the scoreboard than the other team's going to have. On the flip side, this is an offense that struggles to score at times, and that's even against just okay pitching. All right, so that does happen. But against high-level pitching, LSU's bats can go silent. I mean, then it's just a matter of one or two guys on the, on the opposing lineup, maybe getting a timely hit or, drawing a walk and then running into one. And that's all she wrote. That's enough runs to do the trick against LSU. So the thing is this, I don't see high-level pitching in our bracket from any of the other 3 teams. That's why I'm so confident. Now, if LSU moves on, there will be some high-level pitching, but it's just not a lot of it out there. LSU's got one of the best pitching staffs. I talk about them all the time. North Carolina. There's just not a lot of teams that have great pitching. I mean, you look at a team like Arkansas, everybody talks about all the time as one of the best teams. Their pitching, if you go look at their 3 starters, who's been their 3 starters, go look at their last 2 outings. They've been getting lit up. Everybody's talking about Arkansas's pitching off this week, pitching Jimenez. I don't know that they trust anybody, to be honest with you. I mean, whether it's Root, whether it's Gage Wood, Beetleshe's already kind of lost his spot, but he's been starting a lot. Jimenez started last week or in the conference tournament, I think it was. So there's a lot of teams and some of the better teams that just don't have, a lot of high level pitching. So, but that's why I feel so confident about this weekend. I just think that LSU can do well against teams whose strength is hitting because our pitching is so good and it's good enough to shut them down. Look, if you can shut down SEC hitters, you're going to shut down, or do well against them. You're going to do well against a mid-majors offense, okay? That said, if you think we can start scouting Clemson or whoever else is in that regional and believe that this weekend will be void of any adversity at all, think again. For starters, Jay Johnson's teams are no strangers, all right, to opening round nail biters once you get to the postseason. So let's look back for a second. 2022 versus number 3 seed Kennesaw State. We aren't even out of the 5th inning, and the Owls have battered LSU's ace and top reliever for 11 runs. That was Mikhail Hilliard and Riley Cooper. All right. Everyone watching that Hattiesburg Regional was shocked at what they were seeing. The Tigers are down 11-4, and it took a furious 10-run 8th inning comeback basically to avoid the upset. Tigers got the win 14-11. So that was a scare. Now, the 2023 opener was pretty uneventful, but it did require a complete game from Paul Skeens to beat like an 18-win Tulane team 7-2. I say uneventful. I think what made it interesting was all the chatter about pitching Paul Skeens. But look, it took him going. I'll just say, if Paul Skeens doesn't pitch that, I mean, I don't know. I'm not so confident that you get the same outcome. I mean, you could, but like Paul Skeens went the whole game, and LSU didn't have to go into their bullpen. And it wasn't like, LSU played a very close game next against Oregon State. They played them twice. So, I'm not going to say that was a scare, 2023, but you go then to last year, 2024. LSU enters the bottom of the 7th versus 3-seed Wofford, being shut out 2-0, and has just 2 hits. 2. That's it. Monster Milam hit a leadoff homer, making it a 1-run game. But then the Terriers hit their own leadoff homer to bring the score back to a 2-run lead, 3-1. So LSU's down in the 8th inning of the opening round once again, just like 2022. But who else other than the power-hitting Michael Braswell would hit, you guessed it, a leadoff homer, all right, in the 8th inning. And then Jared Jones hit a bomb of his own to tie the game. And in the bottom of the 9th, the legend of Monster Milam was cemented. He hit another leadoff homer to win the game 4-3. How crazy is this? The last 2.5 innings of that opening game last year in the regionals, we had a leadoff homer in the bottom of the 7th. Wofford even hit a leadoff homer, top of the 8th. And LSU hit a leadoff homer, the bottom of the 8th. Braswell, and then Milam walked it off with a leadoff hitter in the 9th. So it took 3 straight leadoff homers in innings 7, 8, 9 for the Tigers to avoid catastrophe. Now, I haven't missed a single pitch of an LSU game. I know for sure since Jay Johnson took over as head coach. One of my best friends' son was on the team in 2022, 2023. I've not missed a pitch. I've watched every game. I mean, those 2 games, the 2022 Kennesaw State game and the 2024 Wofford game, both opening round games, are 2 of the greatest and most insane games I have witnessed. I do not need any of that in my life this year. I really don't. I am all for us just going out there and beating these teams like an absolute drum. We will have plenty of time, plenty of opportunity to play close, entertaining games, in the coming weeks. But please, LSU, not this weekend. I just want to watch some baseball and not, feel like I'm having heart attacks, Now, I could go through the 3 teams coming to Baton Rouge, previewing the field like I typically do for an SEC weekend, but that's been done a bunch of times already. Plus, if you are a college baseball junkie, you likely have a D1 baseball subscription with access to every stat you would ever need, or you follow Twitter accounts who put out all kind of neat graphics with tons of data, all kind of regional breakdowns on these teams. I'm going to try to provide some value and give you a different angle, okay? So what I'm going to do, there are some things I'm watching for beyond the scoreboard this weekend, okay? And what I mean is this. While winning the regional is your number one top priority, there's more at stake, and I'm looking down the road a little bit. All right. If we are to keep this thing going beyond this weekend, what will need to happen? So that's what I want to point out to you. So here are my top 3 things I am paying very close attention to. And again, I'm not overlooking anybody. It's not a deal where look, we can all agree that getting to a regional is not the objective for this team. You're a top 8 seed. It's beyond this. So Jay Johnson says it all the time. You're not just playing to win, you're playing to a standard, right? So Here are the top 3 things that I'm paying very close attention to. Number 1, can this offense bounce back from what happened in Hoover? All right. Where it scored 4 runs on 6 hits over 2 games. LSU was 6 for 54, 111 batting average. Now, I get it. Everybody was going on and on about the offense and the struggling offense and we'll never go far. But I think there's a misconception that this offense has been just bad lately. And this just isn't the case. All right. I want you to look at the last 2 conference series, not just Hoover. Go back. Last 2 conference series, you had Arkansas and South Carolina. You had 10 hits in 5 of those 6 games against conference opponents. All right. That is good. You get 10 hits, you should win the game. Versus South Carolina, you averaged 11 hits a game. In the 3 games, you had 12 hits, 10 hits, 11 hits. Versus Arkansas, you averaged 10 hits a game against a staff that everybody considers one of the best, most talented staffs in baseball. You had games of 10 hits, 11 hits, and 9 hits. That's a .303 batting average the last 2 weekends of the season. That is pretty darn good. So I get it. LSU, didn't do great in Hoover. They couldn't get much going after the 3rd inning of that first game. But if you actually go back and look, LSU hit 5 balls really, really hard, just right at guys, versus Ole Miss, that is, in addition to the hits from Stanfield and Aaron Beatty. You look back, you had Ethan Fry on a hit and run, hit a liner. Michael Braswell got robbed twice. He hit a liner right up the middle. They were playing right behind second base. Then he hit it what should have been a double down the line that the guy, Luke Hill, made an incredible backhand play, jumped up, threw the guy out at first. Danny Dickinson hit a ball really hard to left center field that they were in position. Curriel hit a ball really nicely. So I don't think it's as bad as it seemed. Yes, you don't want to get 2 hit and lose a game 2-0. And then, A&M was able to shut you down after the 3rd inning. But we all know, and I don't know why this is, but LSU is just a completely different team at home. I don't know why that many players hit that much better at home, but it's just how it is. So, in my opinion, the biggest key to this offense right now is Derek Curriel. All right. Remember that weekend he had against Tennessee where he was 7 for 15 with 2 doubles and a homer? And mind you, one of the 3 games he was like 0 for 4. All right. He's had a very rough stretch versus SEC pitching since that weekend. All right. Over the next 3 series against A&M, Arkansas, and South Carolina, and Hoover, he went 8 for 46. That is a 174 batting average. And not only that, but Curriel has only walked twice compared to 16 strikeouts and scored just 3 runs in that span. So, you're talking about 9 conference games and then the 2 in Hoover. 174 over 11 games with 16 strikeouts and 2 walks from your leadoff guy. He's got all the ability in the world. I have not lost confidence in him, but I think it all starts with him at the top of the lineup. And so that's one thing I'm just really looking, I'm watching very closely. The other thing is you also have to get something out of your 7, 8, and 9 hitters. For most of the year, it's kind of been like Braswell hitting 7th, one of the catchers hitting 8th, and then Stanfield hitting 9th. Michael Braswell has gone 0 for in 9 of the last 10 games. He is on a 3 for 32 run, and if you remove game 1 of the South Carolina series where he was 3 for 3, he's 0 for 29 in the other 9 games. That is wild, okay? So, now, Aaron Beatty, last 3 starts, 5 for 11, and he's had at least 1 hit in each of those 3 starts. Love to see that. Stanfield has 1 double in his last 10 games. And this is the guy who leads the SEC with 14 doubles. He's got 15 on the year. Now, he has reached base 13 times in the last 8 games, so he is drawing some bases on balls, which is, look, this time of year, it's just as good as a hit, but would love to see him getting back to hitting some of those doubles and getting – there's nothing better than, especially a leadoff double, but a double with less than 2 outs, get you in scoring position. Love to see that. So those are 2 things with the offense I'm really watching is Derek Curiel and then the bottom of the lineup to see what we can get going. Now, there's also 2 guys that I want to mention that have been really good and just hoping that they can keep things going because we have really relied on these 2 guys, okay? And that's Danny Dickinson and Ethan Fry. Dickinson is hitting .367 over the last 8 games. He's 11 for 30. And the Ole Miss game actually broke an 8-game hitting streak going back to Game 3 in College Station. Ethan Fry, he did not start Game 1 at A&M, but has started the last 10 games since. He's 15 for 37. That's a .405 batting average, 4 doubles, 4 home runs, including 6 multi-hit games. Those 2 guys right there have been a big reason why LSU's offense has gotten going. We all talk about Jared Jones and Stephen Milam and these guys. And look, you can't expect everybody to all of a sudden, this offense to turn into something that they're not. All right. I'm not expecting unrealistic, putting expectations on them. But I do think that, like I mentioned, Curiel got to get going. The bottom of the lineup got to get something out of the 7, 8, 9. You can't just have basically you get to the bottom of the lineup and you're not getting anything going. And you get to the top of the lineup and Curiel's slumping. So got to get something there and hoping that those two guys can keep it going for sure. If there's a wild card that I think could impact games this time of year, it's Josh Pearson. Love Josh Pearson. He has played in some big games in June. His freshman year in 2022, he had the game-winning hit in the 10th inning of a winner's bracket game against USM, which put LSU in that 2-0 kind of situation. Now, USM came back and beat him twice, but that was a huge hit as a freshman right there in the postseason for Pearson. 2023 made the catch to save the game versus Florida in the College World Series Game 1, and that was the finals, guys. The bottom of the 10th inning, Wyatt Langford hits a ball 112 miles per hour that's going over Pearson's head. If he doesn't make a snag on that ball, then Florida's up 1-0 in the World Series. Instead, LSU comes back, wins that game. And then last year, in the 2 games that LSU won in Chapel Hill, Josh Pearson went 3 for 4 with 2 doubles and a home run with 4 RBIs against Wofford. And then he homered versus North Carolina in the game that LSU won 8-4. So playoff Pearson will make his presence known, in my opinion, this weekend and in the coming weeks. All right. Number 2 thing that I am keeping a close eye on. What version of Zach Cowan and Kason Evans do we see? I think this is extremely, extremely important. Starting with Kason Evans. It's not like Kason Evans has gone through a rough patch. Really, for him, he went from being in the closer role to starting 3 straight games. He was like that Sunday starter. The last start, he kind of struggled with command and was giving up hits on like 93, 94 mile per hour fastballs. And that's not him. What made him so successful was coming out the pin, and he was pumping 97 and 99 with the changeup, the slider, and I just never did like him in that starting role. Can he do it? Sure. But I just think he's so much more effective out of the bullpen. So I'm hoping that the rest and letting him get back to that role that he thrived in is going to help him be what we saw early on from him. So that is something. And they didn't pitch last weekend in Hoover. So really, really excited to see what we see from Case and Evans. And then Zach Cowan. Zach Cowan has had an unbelievable year, all right? But he has had some rough outings down the stretch. After completely dominating every situation he was put in for most of the year, he went through a little, basically it was three games out of 4 appearances where he allowed runs. So 3 of his last 4 outings he allowed a run. All right. And when you're coming in as a closer, you don't want that. And not only is allowing runs, but he allowed the winning run. 3 of those games, he took the loss. So out of his last 4 appearances, he took the loss in 3 of them. Now, I have lots of confidence in Zach Cowan. I've said this a lot of times. It's not that people just know he's throwing a changeup. It's about command, and I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what do we see from Zach Cowan and Case and Evans. Something very interesting to me. I'm not so sure that game 1, if it's in a tight spot, that's who we see. With the emergence of Chase Shore specifically, that's another guy right now that's gained a lot of confidence from the coaches, the fans. I mean, so I'll be very interested to see that. But as I mentioned, with Chase Shores, Cooper Williams, Jacob Myers, this bullpen becomes elite if Zach Cowan and Kason Evans are back to their old ways. It also allows Jaden Newt to step into that third role. Look, he's been great as a reliever, but with all of these guys throwing well out of the bullpen, it gives you the flexibility to just say, hey, look, we can just set it in stone. We're going to pitch Jaden Newt in the championship game of the regionals or game 3 of a super regional. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to seeing is the first time Cowan and Evans comes out of that bullpen. The third thing that I'm keeping a close eye on is outfield defense. Now, this team is fielding 981. It's like a top 10 defense in the league. In SEC play, it was even better. It's very good defense. Especially the infield, okay? Braswell, Milam, and Dickinson have 9 errors combined between the 3. They all have 3 errors. That's absurd. I have supreme confidence anytime a ball is hit on the infield. That's including Jared Jones, okay? And I feel like it's going to be an out. We're going to turn 2. We're not going to make a mistake. However, there have been times this year where this outfield can get a little bit squirrely. And I know, I haven't heard many people say that because it is a good athletic outfield. But there's some plays that weren't necessarily always charged errors, but plays we should make. I think back to the Auburn series. I think it cost us a game or two. Especially the first game when Anderson was pitching. Curiel misplayed. I'm not saying he cost it, but like collectively the outfield play. Curiel misplayed a couple of fly balls. Stanfield dropped one that hit off his glove in center field. I believe it was the A&M series where they hit a triple down the right field line and we kicked the ball into the corner, allowing, I think it was Royo to get all the way to third base. Even last weekend against A&M and Hoover, Stanfield misplayed a ball right at him off the bat of Gavin Cash, and it almost cost us that game. I mean, if we don't get a runner's interference and then Anthony Ianson does his Houdini act, we're toast. They had a guy on third with no outs. So in Omaha, maybe not this weekend at Alex Box, but in Omaha, you will have to be sharp in the outfield. So I hope to see us playing sound outfield defense this weekend. And then lastly, the last thing I'm going to be having my eye on is that Clemson regional because that's who we're paired up. And I think it's a very competitive regional. You've got Clemson playing USC Upstate in that first game, and then there's the 1-4. And Upstate's not scared of Clemson. Upstate's one of the better offenses in that regional. And then the 2-3 matchup is West Virginia and Kentucky. So, I think that's a fascinating regional that I'll be watching very closely because obviously if you advance, you get the winner of that regional at the box. So that's going to do it like I mentioned, there's all kinds of probably previews already out there. I just kind of wanted to leave you with a couple of things about this regional, some players and some things that I'm just keeping a close eye on. Man, I'm so excited for this. And I'm not really sure if I'll be doing kind of uh, a standalone podcast after each game we play, or just coming back maybe at the conclusion of the region. I haven't decided yet. But as always, thank you so much for listening. And let's do it this weekend. Super excited, guys. Appreciate y'all so much. And we will talk to you soon.